Hello, class. Welcome to the reading room. I'm Dr. Annette Farovich, and I'm the teacher. You're here in the classroom. We are continuing on day 46 with the Mostly True Adventures of Homer P. Figg by Rodman Philbrick. I don't know if we've got illustrations here or not. I mean, we do have illustrations, but I don't know if we have. Who did the illustrations? We probably do somewhere. I mean, this illustration. It looks like this is the only illustration, but I like it. All right, so we are on chapter 24. 3 oinks for Homer Pig. Jeez, what an awful thing to always being referred to in that same way. Good grief. I don't remember exactly where we left off, but I always know when I start reading, I remember. So let's get going. When the last blue twilight finally fades from the evening sky, soldiers begin to arrive in groups of 2 or 3, whispering to one another and laughing quietly. They're not supposed to be here watching a medicine show, but are meant to be back in their tents, fast asleep. One evening is all we spend at any encampment, Minnie explains, covering up her tattooed arms with long puffy clips on her sleeves. Folks like us traveling kinds of people, we must keep moving or the law will catch us. What we're doing, selling bottles of medicine, that's against the law? Not exactly, she says uneasily, not meeting my eyes. It's more that strangers are never truly welcome, not for long. When the show begins, we're inside the main wagon. Minnie, because she's putting on her long sleeves, and for me, because I'm the amazing pig boy and can't show my face until the end. Peeking out through the canvas, I watch as Professor Flatbottom claps his hands and leaps up on a little wooden platform that tips down from the side of the wagon. His hat is tall, his knee-high boots are polished like black glass, and the buttons on his coat are $5 gold pieces that glow like little suns in the light of the oil lanterns. Good evening to all, you brave gentlemen. Welcome to the Caravan of Miracles. May Almighty God bless the Union Army and deliver it from losing time and again. With all you recruits being trained to kill your fellow man, surely victory will soon follow, and to help you along the way, to ease the woes and pains of the battlefield and the pinch of bed bugs in your soggy tents, and to improve the taste of the insects that infest your food, and frankly, to give you courage when you needed it. When you most needed, I, Professor Fenton J. Fleabottom, honored graduate of the ancient university in the Far East, have perfected a certain strong elixir, an elixir that will lift your spirits and put the gleam back in your eyes, an elixir containing a sure cure for what ails you, an elixir that will, from the very first sip, deliver you from evil and place you in the soft, motherly bosom of mankind. A murmur comes from the crowd of young soldiers, and many raise up their hands as if to grasp at invisible bottles. Patience, young heroes, patience, patience. The elixir goes on sale following the show and not a moment before. Have no fear, there's plenty for everyone. Now, if one of you good fellows will hand up that banjo, I will demonstrate how a single dose of Fleabottom's miracle elixir cured my rheumatic joints, improved the dexterity of my digits, and clarified my ears. Listen and be amazed. The professor then commences to flail upon the banjo. It starts out as a sad and mournful tune, a slow version of Rally Round the Flag Boys, but then he starts speeding things up and really making the old banjo ring. The soldiers begin to clap along, some of them singing, and just when you think the song is done, Minnie slips behind him and somehow takes the banjo from him and keeps strumming without missing a beat. How the men cheer! Minnie gives them a wild grin and plays a lot of highly plinky notes that sound like metal sparks exploding from fireworks. And then somehow she and the professor are both bashing at the banjo. Minnie with her fingers on the frets and Fleabottom plucking the strings with hands that move so fast his fingers are blurred. I never heard anything near so exciting as four-handed banjo, and it's all I can do to stay in the wagon instead of leaping out and joining the crowd. When the song finally comes to an end, Minnie and the professor hold hands and take a bow, and the soldiers erupt in applause. In Pine Swamps, the trick with the banjo would be good for a year's worth of entertainment, but the Caravan of Miracles is just getting warmed up. Before the cheering stops, two wild men leap out of nowhere, juggling flaming torches and whistling between their teeth. Oh my gosh. For soldiers, could you imagine how extraordinary that would be, just popping up out of nowhere? That really would have been a real morale booster, right? The talented tumbling Brillo brothers are the bearded guys who drive the other two wagons. Minnie told me their true name isn't Brillo, which is something the professor made up, but they really are brothers and can tumble about like chipmunks and juggle anything that comes to hand. Flaming torches, then some wooden buckets, then bricks, then boxes and bricks, and even 3 small chairs. At the end, they grab a small soldier from the crowd, a drummer boy not much bigger than me, and they juggle him, much to the amusement of his friends. After the talented tumbling Brillo brothers take their bows, Professor Fleabottom resumes his place upon the stage. Gentlemen, as the great Roman warrior Mark Antony once famously said, "Lend me your ears, for I have a tale to tell. A curious tale of woe, a tantalizing tale of tragedy, a strange tale that begins in the great north woods of Maine, where the bear and the moose frolic in pine forests whose feathery tops reach near enough to heaven. In forests dark and dense, where the wolves are as black as moon shadows and white men's feet have yet to trod the ancient earth. In just such a place, a rare and unusual creature was recently discovered by a band of kindly Indians. The Indians found, cowering and snarling in one of their traps, a creature the ancients called a chimera, a hybrid creature, part human, part hog, half boy, half pig. Do you not believe? Do I sense emanations of doubt? Are there skeptics among you? Then, gentlemen, prepare to be amazed. Prepare to be amazed. I give you the amazing Pig Boy. His mighty voice ringing in the night, the professor lifts high his lantern as the crate is trundled out of the wagon. In the crate are 3 squealing, frightened little pigs, 3 pigs and me. And I'm squealing too, and snuffling my dirty nose around the slats of the crate and baring my teeth and pretending I'll bite any hand that strays too near. Stand back, gentlemen. Back, I say. Be warned. The creature bites. Last week it chomped a hand clean off at the wrist. It has bitten off noses, ears, and once took the last eyeball from a one-eyed sailor. I'm naked except for a pair of skimpy drawers, but it don't hardly matter because I'm so caked with filth that none of my skin shows through. It's like wearing a dirt suit. Minnie helped me stuff leaves in my hair to puff up my ears and glued a little curly tail on my backside. When she held up a little mirror to admire our work, I nearly screamed. The savage beast in the mirror wasn't me. It couldn't be me, could it? Fact is, I'm scaring myself half to death, not just because I'm so filthy and ferocious looking, but because it's fun being Pig Boy. Maybe to a little boy, I don't think to a little girl, or different. I like wiggling my glued-on tail. I like baring my teeth and squealing like a trapped animal. I like scaring soldiers who are twice as old as me and who leap back like frightened children when I snap at their fingers. It's fun to be amazing, to be the star of the show, to have everyone watching you, even if you have to act like a pig. And before long, I really do feel more animal than human. Watch out there. He'll take your hand off, cries a young soldier backing away. My brain is screaming to be let out of the crate so I can bite all my tormentors. But instead of screaming words, I'm screaming pig noises. Rage, you poor creature, the professor bellows, gesturing with the lantern. Rage at the tragedy of your existence. Rage and squeal against the indignity of your fetid prison. I don't know that word. Fetid prison? I'm not sure. F-E-T-I-D. I'm not sure. He turns to the astonished crowd, putting a hand upon his heart. Gentlemen, I ask you this. A half-breed creature, a thing neither one nor the other, is a thing such as this, endowed with a soul? When it dies, will it meet its maker, or shall it return to the dust? A man has a soul, and an animal does not. This we have been taught. But what of a half-man? Has it a half-soul, or none at all? The soldiers get real quiet. Only thing making noise is me. Oink, oink, oink. Only God knows the answer, the professor announces, very grand and solemn. Take this poor creature away, he says, calling for the Brillo brothers. Hide it from human eyes. Gentlemen, there is no cure for the amazing pig boy, but be assured there is ample cure for each and every one of you. The Brillo brothers throw a rug over my crate and sling it back into the wagon. As Mimi hands out the bottles, the professor's golden voice booms into the night. Gather round. Fleabottom's miracle elixir will cure what ails you. Satisfaction guaranteed. $1 the bottle. $1 the bottle, boys. $1 well spent. And for each that buys a bottle, a glimpse of the totally tattooed lady from Cannibal Island. Back inside the wagon, a bucket of soapy water awaits so that I may clean up and become human again. Lifting the canvas, I glimpse the soldiers spending the elixir upending the elixir bottles, and eyes glazed in the lantern light. Even covered with pig filth, I can smell the medicine we're selling. I know that smell. Whiskey. Professor Fleabottom's miracle elixir is just plain whiskey. Chapter 25, See the Elephant and Die. When I was 9 years old, Harold snuck me to the State Fair in Skowhegan. I say snuck because old Squint forbade us going on account of the evil influences common at fairs, meaning I guess that folks have fun and that can't be good, not so far as Squint was concerned. In his opinion, humans were best when miserable, and so he had worked at being miserable his whole life, and in his generous way tried to make as many people miserable as possible. The Skowhegan Fairgrounds being some distance away, Harold persuaded one of the Pine Swamp farmers to carry us there in the back of his vegetable cart. Wouldn't you know, the cart threw a wheel and we ended up walking most of 20 miles. I kept wanting to turn back on account of my feet hurting, but Harold wouldn't let me give up. When we got there, it was worth it. I'd never seen so many people in one place. Most every tent and booth had food to sell. Fried dough with sugar frosting and hot donuts and cinnamon sprinkles and roasted beef and chicken wings and pickled eels and herring and sugared this and honeyed that. And even though we didn't have money, we ate our fill of what others left behind. Ate so much I got sick, but I didn't care. I kept right on eating. There was harness racing around a big dirt track with folks screaming and waving tickets and exhibitions of fine carriages and farm equipment and draft horses hauling tons of stone from the quarry and prize livestock, and late at night a special tent where women danced in their underclothes and showed their bare ankles. That's where I first smelled whiskey breathing from a crowd outside the dancing girls' tent. We was forbidden to enter, of course, being only boys, but stationed ourselves outside because some of the men were so drunk they needed help to walk and paid us a penny to assist them to their wagons so they wouldn't have to sleep in the mud. That's where I learned that whiskey makes men stupid. There are Skowhegan Fair. They're at the Skowhegan Fair. Makes men stupid in New Jersey too, draining their bottles of medicine like it was water, and they was dying of thirst. Some stand swaying, others fall to their knees, some laugh at nothing, others weep for their mothers, sick for home. It doesn't seem right to me getting soldiers drunk, but Professor Fleabottom says I must get used to it if I have any hope of finding Harold. These boys, every last one of them, they're all replacements. Do you know what a replacement is? He asks me. When I shake my head, he says, it means that a few weeks they will take the place of those who have died in battle or from disease, and many of them will perish too. The elixir gives them courage, if only for a little while. Some are puking, sir. He shrugs. They'll puke on the battlefield too. War is an awful thing, Homer. Whiskey is just whiskey. We serve a purpose, whether you know it or not. Yes, sir. Tonight they saw the amazing pig boy and got a little drunk. Before the summer is over, they'll have seen the elephant, and many will have seen the grave. Yes, sir. Seeing the elephant is soldier talk for fighting in a battle. I'm praying Harold never sees the elephant. We hit the road hard for 2 long weeks, each day putting miles of dust behind us, and every night setting up not far from some army encampment or other, and then packing up and fleeing when the show is over. Sometimes I ride with the professor and Minnie, other times with the jugglers. The jugglers Bernard and Talleyrand, that's their real names, at first seem full of jokes and pranking, but after a while I come to understand they're worried they'll be swept up by the draft if they stay in one place too long. Nothing to fear, brother, says Bern, as we plod along the road heading south. The army gets us, we'll juggle cannonballs or catch bullets in our teeth. More likely in our brains, says Tally, rolling his eyes. We have brains, says Bern. Small ones, says Tally. Not smart enough to think, just dumb enough to juggle. Tally don't only juggle, he's also the caravan cook, and a mighty good one too. He can cook potatoes 6 different ways and fry up chicken in a deep iron skillet. And he makes a thing called whomper. That's a beef stew inside a crust. My favorite, though, is eggs, sausage, and biscuits. That's one good not only for breakfast, but any time of the day or night. One time, the brothers have a hankering for a late-night snack of pork chops, and Tally asked, would I mind giving up one of my little pigs that share my crate? Over my dead body, I tell him, my ears getting hot. Would you fry up Bernard just because you were hungry? You leave my friends alone. Bern chuckles and shakes his head. Told you he's thinking like a pig. That's why he's so convincing. That and the tail, says Tally. Professor Fleabottom proves to be as good as his word at asking after Harold at every army camp we visit and trying to determine where he might be posted. Most of the soldiers we meet are from New Jersey or New York, but twice we come upon troops intended for Maine regiments. Much to my disappointment, my brother is not among them. A grizzled-looking Portland-born sergeant tells us that many of the new recruits are promised to the 20th Maine to replace those felled by an outbreak of smallpox. He spits about a quart of tobacco juice in one squirt, wipes his beard with his sleeve. After beating the Union at Chancellorsville, Lee has left Virginia and headed north, he says. That's what we hear. Nobody tells us nothing, of course, so it's mostly rumor and lies. So that's Robert E. Lee. Indeed, the professor says, sounding very interested, General Lee comes north? Robert E. Lee is the wily old Confederate general that's been winning most of the battles ever since the war started, and even the toughest Union men speak of him with respect. Now, that I didn't know. We're going to have to look at those battles, though, aren't we? In the Bookless classroom, because that's what we're talking about. The sergeant squints at the professor. Could be, he says. What makes you so curious? Wouldn't happen to be spying, would you? The professor laughs and slaps his knee. Good one, sir. I may be hanged for a rascal, but never a spy. No, no, sir. Our curiosity is perfectly innocent. We ask because this orphan boy is looking for his brother, claims he was illegally sold into the army at a tender age of 17. Was he now? The sergeant studies me with his squinty eyes. Yes, sir. My uncle said he was 20 and swore him in for replacement and kept the money. The swear was a dirty lie. Harold ain't but 17. And what do you aim to do, little fella? Supposing you do find him. He's been sworn in and said so yourself. I don't know, I admit, but find him I must. The sergeant gives another suspicious glance to the professor, then jerks his chin at me. Try Pennsylvania vicinity of the Potomac River. Any men mustered in the last few months, that's likely where they'll send them in preparation for the battle to come. And son, yes, sir, keep your head down. Soon enough, the air will be thick with lead. That night, I can't sleep for worrying about Harold. He's so strong and brave. They've probably given him the flag to carry into battle. First thing those Confederates will see is Harold coming over the hill, waving the stars and stripes. And every secessionist rifle will have eyes for him. I imagine General Robert E. Lee on his gray horse shooting at Harold with his fancy silver pistol, and Harold falling tangled up in the flag. I imagine Harold bleeding on the ground, his face getting paler and paler, Harold dead. That's when I get up from my little bunk in the last wagon and climb out into the night, wanting some cool air to clear my head. It's stupid to torment myself with visions of what might happen to my brother when he gets to the war. Nothing to be done but to keep on searching as our little caravan heads west into Pennsylvania, like the old sergeant said. Find the main regiments and explain to the generals that they got the wrong boy, that they must give me back my big brother before something bad happens. I'm a few yards from the wagons doing my business behind a big rock when the rider comes out of the night. Man on a black horse. He's got the horse's hooves wrapped in rags to muffle the sound, and at first I think he must be here to rob us. Why else sneak up on us through the darkest, quietest part of the night? I'm about ready to shout out a warning to the others when Professor Fleabottom slips out of the first wagon. He's wearing a dark cloak that blends him into the darkness, and something about the way he moves says he's all business. The professor meets up with the man on the horse. They speak for a few minutes, but so low I can't hear nothing but a murmur. Then Professor Fleabottom looks around to make sure nobody is watching. He don't see me peeking around the rock, and he reaches into the dark cloak and takes out a leather satchel, the kind that he carries mail or dispatches. The professor hands the satchel to the man on the black horse. The man gives him a quick salute and wheels the horse away, vanishing silently into the night. Now I got 2 reasons not to sleep. Harold and whatever the professor is up to, sneaking around under cover of the night. That was chapter 25. Chapter 26 coming up, The Terrible Black Wagons. All right, we'll read that tomorrow. This is Dr. Annette Firovich. That is such a good story so far. We are over halfway through our story, The Mostly True Adventures of Homer P. Figg. Thanks for joining me. This is the classroom. This is the reading room, and I am the teacher.